Zara Vex had perfected the art of the professional smile, the kind that said, "I'm listening," while her brain screamed, "Absolutely not." She deployed it now as she stood in the lobby of the Grand Metropolitan Hotel, watching Damien cross-stride through the revolving doors like he owned the place. Beneath her skin tone modifier, Zara's natural violet skin remained hidden. She was Celestian, sent to Earth 3 years ago to study human conflict resolution and social dynamics. Her people had evolved beyond petty arguments, and the Celestian Institute wanted to understand why humans seemed to thrive on disagreement. What Zara hadn't anticipated was meeting someone who embodied conflict so perfectly, and who made her forget every principle of detached observation. "You've got to be kidding me," Zara muttered, clutching her event folder tighter. Damien spotted her immediately, that infuriating smirk playing across his lips. He was tall, frustratingly handsome with dark hair and sharp features, wearing his charcoal suit like armor. Everything about him radiated confidence and success, which only made Zara want to knock him down a peg. "Zara, what a pleasant surprise," Damien said, his voice dripping with sarcasm that had become their default language over the past 2 years. "It would be more surprising if you'd actually read the event committee list," Zara replied, not hiding her irritation. "I've been coordinating this environmental gala for 3 months. And I've been the keynote speaker for 6 weeks. Guess we both missed that memo." Their friend Maya rushed over, her coral dress swishing as she positioned herself between them like a referee. "Okay, you two, please tell me we can have one night without the verbal sparring. This is for charity." "I'm perfectly civil," Zara said, though her clenched jaw suggested otherwise. "I'm delightful," Damien added, flashing that $1,000,000 smile. Maya looked between them with exhausted familiarity. "The seating chart has you both at the main table. Please, for the love of everything, be adults about this." As Maya hurried off, Zara and Damien stood in uncomfortable silence. "So," Damien said, rocking back on his heels. "I hear you're trying to block the Riverside project again." And there it was. The Riverside project, Damien's latest development scheme that would transform beautiful waterfront into luxury condos. Zara had been fighting it for months. "I'm not trying to block it," Zara corrected, green eyes flashing. "I'm trying to protect one of the last natural habitats in the city center. But I wouldn't expect you to understand the difference between progress and destruction. That habitat is a glorified patch of weeds next to a parking lot," Damien countered, his easy demeanor slipping. "My project would include green spaces and sustainable design. But I wouldn't expect you to see past your tunnel vision." They were standing closer now, voices rising despite the elegant surroundings. Other guests were starting to notice. "You know what," Zara said, stepping back. "I'm not doing this tonight. There are people here who actually care about environmental protection." She turned to walk away, but Damien's voice stopped her. "For what it's worth, Zara, I do care. I just have a different approach." She glanced back, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. But the moment passed quickly. "Your approach involves bulldozers and profit margins. Yours involves blocking every development regardless of merit." The gala itself was spectacular. The ballroom glittered with fairy lights, champagne flowed freely. Zara threw herself into her coordinator role, trying very hard to ignore Damien's presence, that became impossible when he took the stage for his keynote. "We often think of environmental protection and economic development as opposing forces," Damien began. "I used to think that way too. But the truth is we need both." Zara found herself listening despite her determination not to. He spoke about innovative building techniques, green architecture, community partnerships. He even mentioned preserving natural habitats. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. "Good speech, right?" Maya appeared beside Zara. "It was fine," Zara admitted grudgingly. During dinner, Zara found herself seated directly across from Damien, with their friends creating a buffer zone that felt both necessary and ridiculous. "This salmon is incredible," their friend Alex said brightly, clearly steering to neutral territory. "It's sustainably sourced," Zara added, then immediately wished she hadn't when she saw Damien's amused expression. Of course it is, he said. Wouldn't want any environmentally irresponsible fish. Mock all you want, but consumer choices matter. I actually agree with you on that one. Zara looked at him suspiciously, waiting for the punchline, but Damien just returned to his meal. This was new. Usually he'd seize any opportunity to debate. The evening progressed with speeches and dancing. Zara was talking with a donor when the lights suddenly flickered once, twice, then complete darkness. Everyone remained calm. The hotel manager's voice called. Temporary power outage. Emergency lighting will activate momentarily. In the darkness, someone bumped into Zara from behind, sending her stumbling forward. Strong hands caught her arms, steadying her. She knew immediately, from the touch, from the scent of expensive cologne, that it was Damien. Are you okay? His voice came from very close. I'm fine, she turned her head at the same moment he leaned down to check on her. Suddenly, their lips met in the darkness. It was brief, accidental, but the shock of it froze them both. Damien's hands were still on her arms, and Zara's hand had somehow found its way to his chest. Feeling his heart racing as fast as hers, the emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in an eerie red glow. They sprang apart as if burned, staring at each other with identical expressions of shock and something else, something neither was ready to name. That was, Damien started. An accident, Zara finished quickly. Obviously an accident. Right. Obviously. But as the regular lights came back on and the party resumed, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The kiss had lasted maybe 2 seconds, meant nothing, changed nothing. So why could she still feel the warmth of Damien's lips on hers? And why was her heart refusing to slow down? Across the room, she caught Damien watching her. When their eyes met, neither looked away as quickly as they should have. Zara touched her fingers to her lips, confused and unsettled. She'd spent 2 years perfecting her dislike of Damien Cross, building walls of arguments and antagonism. One accidental kiss shouldn't be able to crack those foundations, yet as the gala continued around her, Zara couldn't deny the truth slowly, terrifyingly dawning. Maybe she'd been fighting Damien so hard because part of her had always known what might happen if she stopped. The accidental kiss haunted Zara for exactly 3 days before she convinced herself it meant nothing. A random collision, a physiological reaction to surprise, a moment both had clearly agreed to forget. Her strategy of avoidance shattered Tuesday morning when she walked into the offices of Chen and Associates, the firm handling environmental assessment for a property she wanted to preserve, and found Damien sitting in the reception area. No, Zara said, stopping so abruptly her briefcase swung forward. Absolutely not. Damien looked up, and she watched several emotions flicker across his face before he locked them down. Zara, what are you doing here? I have a 9 o'clock with Richard Chen about the lakeside property. What are you doing here? I also have a 9 o'clock with Richard Chen about the lakeside property. They stared at each other as terrible realization sank in. The lakeside property was 15 acres on the shores of Lake Washington, currently an abandoned industrial site surrounded by wetlands. Zara had been working for months to secure it as a nature preserve. Apparently, Damien had other plans. You want to develop lakeside? Zara said, voice dangerously quiet. I want to remediate a contaminated site and turn it into something useful. It is useful. The wetlands support over 40 species of birds. It's a toxic waste site, Zara. The soil needs extensive environmental remediation before anyone can use it for anything. Before they could continue, Richard Chen emerged, a silver-haired man with diplomatic concern written across his face. Ms. Vex, Mr. Cross, please come in. I see you've both realized you're interested in the same property. Richard's office overlooked the bay, but Zara barely noticed. She sat in a leather chair, hyper-aware of Damien settling beside her. I'll be frank, Richard began. The lakeside property is complicated. The current owners want to ensure it goes to someone who will handle environmental remediation responsibly. They've asked me to evaluate both proposals. Both proposals? Zara echoed. Mr. Cross submitted his development plan last week. Ms. Vex, I received your preserve proposal yesterday. Richard pulled out 2 folders. I'd like to see if there's any possibility of finding common ground. Common ground? Zara repeated. Between commercial development and environmental preservation? It's not commercial development, Damien said, jaw tightening. It's a mixed-use education and research center with residential components designed to fund the ongoing environmental work. Zara turned to look at him fully. What? Damien pulled out his tablet, showing architectural renderings. Despite her determination to hate whatever he showed her, Zara found herself leaning closer. The designs showed low-profile buildings integrated into the landscape with extensive green roofs, solar panels, and restored wetlands surrounding everything. The main building would house environmental education programs and research facilities, Damien explained. These smaller structures would be residential units for visiting researchers and graduate students. The residential component provides steady funding for education programs and ongoing habitat restoration. You're building a research center, Zara said slowly. I'm building a sustainable community that supports environmental research while remediating a contaminated site. Damien looked at her. Unless you think that's somehow terrible too. Richard cleared his throat. Ms. Vex, perhaps you'd like to share your vision? Zara pulled herself together and presented her proposal: a nature preserve with walking trails, an education center focused on wetland ecology, partnership with local universities for field research. As she talked, she became aware of Damien watching intently, actually listening rather than preparing counterarguments. When she finished, Richard sat back. Both excellent proposals. The challenge is funding. Ms. Vex, your plan relies heavily on grants, which can be unstable. Mr. Cross, your plan is financially sound but more structurally intensive. What if we combine them? Damien said suddenly. Both Zara and Richard stared at him. I'm sorry, what? Zara managed. Damien leaned forward, and Zara recognized the expression, focused problem solving. She'd seen it during their arguments, but never directed toward collaboration. Your education programming is stronger than mine, Damien said, looking at Zara. Your community partnerships, your curriculum ideas, accessibility for school groups. It's better than what my team developed. Zara was genuinely surprised. Thank you. And your residential funding model solves my biggest problem, she continued. I can't rely on uncertain grant funding for long-term maintenance. Richard was nodding. You're suggesting a partnership. I'm suggesting we might both want the same thing, Damien said. We just have different approaches to getting there. Zara's mind raced. This was not how things went with Damien. They argued. They competed. They did not collaborate. I need to think about this. Of course, Richard said smoothly. Why don't you two explore whether a joint proposal makes sense? I'm meeting with the property owners in 3 weeks. If you can present something unified, they'd be very interested. Outside, Zara stood on the sidewalk trying to process what had happened. Damien emerged, loosening his tie slightly. That was unexpected, he said. Which part? That you actually want to build something I don't hate, or that you suggested working together? Both, honestly. Damien smiled, but it wasn't his usual smirk. It was smaller, more genuine. Can I buy you coffee? We should probably talk about this. Every instinct told Zara to say no, to maintain distance. But there was the lakeside property to consider, and the potential to actually accomplish something meaningful. Fine. But not anywhere our friends might see us. They ended up at a small cafe near the waterfront. Sitting across from Damien in a window booth, Zara felt distinctly off balance. Without their usual antagonism providing structure, she didn't quite know how to interact with him. I have to ask, Zara said, wrapping her hands around her latte. When did you decide to do a research center instead of condos? Who said I was ever planning condos? You're a developer. That's what you do. I develop properties, yes, but not always residential. Last year I did a charter school. 3 years ago, a community health center. He met her eyes. You think you know what I am, Zara, but you've never actually asked. The words hit harder than they should have. You're right. I assumed. But in my deef. It against her. But something about this moment made her want to be honest. When I was young, my adoptive family took me to a national park. I saw this waterfall, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. She smiled at the memory. 6 months later, we went back. They'd started logging nearby. The stream was muddy, the magic was gone. I decided someone had to protect places like that. And that someone was you, Damien said softly. Someone has to care. I care too, Zara. I just think we can build and protect at the same time. She studied him across the table. This man she'd been fighting for 2 years. Why Lakeside specifically? Damien was quiet for a long moment. My little sister drowned when I was 15. Lake Washington, during a family picnic. They found her in the wetlands 2 days later. He said it matter-of-factly, but Zara saw the old pain. Those wetlands gave us closure. I've wanted to do something meaningful with lakefront property ever since. Damien, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Why would you? We've never actually talked. We just fight. Why do we fight so much? The question came out before Zara could stop it. Damien looked at her for a long moment. Honestly? Because it's easier than the alternative. What alternative? Admitting that I find you fascinating. That I look forward to our arguments because it's the only time I get your full attention. That I've been using our professional disagreements as an excuse to be near you. Zara's breath caught. Damien, and before you say anything, I know the kiss was an accident. I know you don't feel the same way. But since we're being honest, I thought you should know. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too warm. That kiss was an accident, Zara said firmly. But, she trailed off, unsure how to finish. But what? Cole leaned forward. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Which is ridiculous because it was 2 seconds in the dark. She met his eyes. But maybe I've been fighting you so hard because I knew if I stopped, I'd have to face the fact that you make me feel things I don't want to feel. That you challenge me in ways I need. That underneath all the arguing, I might actually like you. The silence that followed felt charged with possibility. So what do we do now? Damien asked finally. Work together on Lakeside. See what happens. Take things slow. And maybe, Zara added, feeling brave, see if a kiss that's not accidental feels the same way. Damien's smile transformed his entire face. I'd like that. Though fair warning, I'm still going to disagree with you when I think you're wrong. I'd expect nothing less. Damien reached across the table, and after a moment's hesitation, Zara placed her hand in his. His fingers were warm, his grip gentle but sure. Partners, he said. Partners, Zara agreed, feeling the word mean something entirely new. 3 weeks later, Zara and Damien had transformed Richard Chen's conference room into their war room. The walls were covered with architectural drawings and environmental impact studies. Empty coffee cups littered the corner table. The research housing can't be here, Zara said, pointing to Damien's latest revision. That's right in the middle of the heron nesting area. Then where do you suggest? Damien leaned over her shoulder, close enough that Zara caught his scent, coffee and cologne. What if we built along this ridge instead? Zara traced a line. Higher ground, better drainage. The tree coverage would provide natural privacy. Damien studied the map, brow furrowed in concentration. Zara had learned that look meant he was running calculations, considering angles and costs. Could actually be perfect, he said slowly. The elevation gives us better views, which makes the housing more attractive for recruiting top researchers. And we could design buildings to follow the natural contour. Minimal grading, maximum preservation. You two are absolutely nauseating, Maya announced from the doorway, carrying takeout. I brought lunch because someone texted that they'd forgotten to eat. Again. We're working, Damien said, stepping back from Zara with slight color in his cheeks. You're adorable is what you are. Maya set the bag down. Everyone thought you'd implode by now, but instead you've turned into some super efficient professional couple. We're not a couple, Zara said quickly. Too quickly. You just spend every waking moment together, finish each other's sentences, and Damien here has forgotten to date anyone else in 3 weeks. I haven't forgotten, Damien muttered. I've been busy. What they hadn't told their friends was that they were dating, sort of. Their partnership had evolved into long dinners after planning sessions, walks discussing everything from childhood to environmental policy. And yes, more kissing. Quite a bit more kissing, but they'd agreed to keep it quiet until they figured out what they were doing. After Maya left, they ate in comfortable silence. I need to tell you something, Damien said, setting down his chopsticks. And you're not going to like it. Zara's stomach tightened. Okay. I got a call from Harrison Properties this morning. My father's company. They want to buy the lakeside property themselves. They've submitted a competing bid. What? Can they do that? It's a private sale. Anyone can bid. Damien ran a hand through his hair. My father thinks our proposal is too idealistic. He wants high-end residential and retail. Maximum profit, minimal environmental consideration. But you're his son, my father and I don't see eye to eye, Damien said quietly. It's why I started my own firm. He thinks I'm wasting my potential on projects that don't maximize returns. Zara moved to sit next to him. I'm sorry. That must be difficult. The worst part is his bid is probably stronger financially. We're dedicating too much space to conservation to compete with pure commercial development on paper. So what do we do? Damien looked at her with determination. We convince the owners that our proposal is better, not financially, but ethically. We show them this isn't just about money. It's about legacy. That night, working late at Damien's apartment after abandoning the conference room, Zara stared at a spreadsheet until her eyes crossed. I don't understand this, she said. The numbers don't add up for the remediation timeline. Damien came to stand behind her chair, leaning down to look at the screen. His hand rested on her shoulder, thumb absently stroking her collarbone. These casual touches had become natural between them. You're calculating residential soil standards, he said softly. But this area won't be residential. We can use industrial remediation standards here, which are less intensive. We only need residential level cleanup in the actual housing footprint. Oh. Zara leaned back against him, letting her head rest against his chest. I'm too tired to think straight. Then stop thinking for a while. Damien pressed a kiss to the top of her head. We present tomorrow. What if it's not enough? Then we tried something meaningful together, and that's worth something regardless of outcome. He turned her chair to face him, crouching so they were eye level. Zara, whatever happens with Lakeside, I need you to know something. Her heart started beating faster. What? These past few weeks have been the best of my professional life. Maybe my personal life too. You've challenged me to be better, to think bigger, to care more deeply. He took her hands. I know we said we'd take things slow, figure out what this is between us. But I already know. I'm completely gone for you. Zara felt tears prick her eyes. Damien, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. No, I need to tell you something too. She took a breath. Something important about who I really am. She stood, walking a few steps away, then turned to face him. Slowly, carefully, she deactivated her skin modifier. The change rippled across her body, skin shifting from human beige to luminous violet. Damien's eyes widened with shock and wonder. He stood slowly. What? How? I'm not human, Zara said, voice trembling. I'm Celestian. From a planet called Celestia. I came here to study human conflict resolution. But what I feel for you, that's real. Everything between us is real. Damien stared, processing. Then slowly, he crossed the distance between them. His hand reached out, fingers tracing her violet cheek with reverence. You're purple, he said softly. Very observant. And you trusted me enough to show me. His voice filled with awe. Zara, I don't care what planet you're from. I don't care what color your skin is. I care about your passion, your intelligence, the way you fight for what you believe in. That's who you are. That's why I love you. Tears spilled down Zara's violet cheeks. You love me? I love you, Damien confirmed. Every argument, every compromise, every moment we've built together. I love all of it. I love you too, Zara whispered. I've been falling in love with you since that accidental kiss, maybe even before. When Damien kissed her this time, it was deliberate, passionate, full of everything they'd been holding back. Zara's violet skin glowed softly in the dim light as she melted into his embrace, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, Zara understood why humans valued love so highly, because this connection, this acceptance, this fierce devotion, was worth every risk, every revelation, every vulnerability.